specific professions that we have to build on this. Not everything is in the Quran as to the details. Everything is in the Quran as to the principles. So we have to use our mind. This is where we are going to get the values. And it means if we are consistent with this, when it comes to the sources, there is no way to have a contemporary ethics if there is no intellectual curiosity. That we have to look, that we have to study. Not only our tradition, but other traditions. We have to take from all the traditions, religious traditions, and even when people are not acknowledging that there is one God, but there is acknowledging that there are values. Why? Because they are relying on intellect, and we don't have a problem with this. We are not scared of intelligence. We are scared of ignorance. So this is where we need to build the first dimension of ethics is the source. And we have here something which is very long in our tradition. We might not agree with excess of, because I saw the picture of Iqbal and he was great. The problem is too many Pakistani and Muslims are celebrating Iqbal, but they don't read him. So that's the problem. So if you want to come to implementation, read and implement instead of celebrating and forgetting. But by the way, the point here is that there is a very long tradition of tasawwuf. And the tasawwuf, when it's rooted in the tradition, very strict, very disciplined, with rules and with dawabit, we mean conditions, this is why you see among the scholars, there were lots of discussion about what? About the virtues. How do we define what is good? Al-fada'il. Al-fada'il means is now we know that there are things that are good and things that are bad, and we have to decide and to go for what is good. This is the very meaning of life. How do you decide what is good? How do you decide what is useful? Once again, you come to the source, Al-Quran is telling you, and then also the Sunnah, the cultures that you have also to take what is good from the cultures and from your intellect. But now, there is something which is deeper than that, which once again is and should be the contribution of all religions and all spiritualities and philosophy for our contemporary world. The problem that we have today is not to agree on some principles. It's very easy, even, when you sit with some very, very tough capitalists, very tough socialists, very strong literalists, you can agree on some of the principles. The question is not there. The question of virtues and what is good should be questioned in the light of the goals, the ends. What do you want to achieve? Because at the end, there is something here that you have to question. When the Prophet ﷺ was asking God about, for example, you won't find anyone on earth telling you knowledge is bad. Knowledge is good. The Prophet ﷺ was not asking only for knowledge. He was not celebrating knowledge per se. Knowledge is good per se, but Allahumma nas'aluka ilman nafi'a. God, we are asking you useful knowledge. Meaning there is a knowledge that could be the opposite of being useful. We know now what he meant. We know now out of this progress, this technology, that we can get knowledge destroying ourselves. And this is what we are facing today. So there could be knowledge that is acting against your own dignity. So there is a long tradition when the means betray the ends. So you have to put the ends first in order to direct the means. So the goals here are very important to define the virtues. And this is where we are coming. We say, what do you mean by useful knowledge? And this is where you come to the spiritual traditions and also the philosophical traditions saying, in fact, this is a knowledge respecting some of the principles of your own humanity coming back to God. So useful for this life and useful for the hereafter. And even if you don't think or don't believe in God, at the end, you have to question the goals. What do you want to do? Because at the end, very good things could be very bad in the way they are used, because the useful or the usefulness could be questioned. If you are educating or having schools. By definition, you would say schools are good. Education is good. Now, if you are educating for the sake of having people being used within a society for profits, you would say, oh, there is a problem. Are we educating citizens, or are we educating people who are within a system which is based on making money? So what is the purpose? What is the goal? And this is where inductively you come to the virtues. You understand what we have to promote, or what we have to celebrate. From an Islamic viewpoint and from a philosophical viewpoint in our society, we need to question what we call usefulness. And we have philosophical tradition talking, for example, about utilitarianism. Utilitarianism is defining what is good, but what is profitable, what is bringing usefulness for the people. But it could be in economic terms. It could be it's good for us, so it's good. But it might be that what is good for us, making profit, it's not bad for our dignity. It's not good for our dignity, and could be bad. So we have to define what we mean by this, and this is where, from in our societies, be them majority Muslim societies or secular societies, we have to question the goals, and it will come back to the means. Why? Because the ethics of goals should be reflected in the ethics of means. The means should be ethical, because this is where we are constructing the whole thing. And sometimes, if we want to compete, for example, with other society, we want to achieve the goals of education that we have in the West. We have the goals of competing with the West, but the way we are using the means is not very ethical in, for example, in a specific culture. You can have the same goals and having a mind that is colonizing a society with the means, because you take the means from outside. You don't think of the means for a specific culture. So this is where, as individuals and within a society, we have to come with this understanding of defining the good and defining the virtues in the light of the goals, which once again is something which it's very important from a human perspective. If you come back to Islam and you understand not what you have in Daesh now in Syria or in Iraq, the very meaning of al-khilafa. Al-khilafa, khulafa fil ard. It's not a political concept, by the way. It's first a human concept, meaning, you know what? This world, this universe is not your property. You don't have the ownership of that. You have to come to this world understanding that you are serving God, meaning that what you have here is vicegerency, that you are here to try to do your best in the light of the respect that you show to the Creator. The only way to be ethical, the only way to be implementing things is the way it's going to be visible in your behavior. What I said, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. But come to Socrates or Aristotle. What was very specific about them? What was very specific about Immanuel Kant in the German tradition? Why these people were respected at a so high level? Why they were philosophers? Because in fact, what is known about them, it was they were implementing what they were preaching. You have lots of texts saying, never, Socrates was never drunk. He was always sober, always having this temperance, that he was in a state of balance, always aware. This is the philosopher. This is wisdom. This is the love of wisdom, which is the very meaning of philosophy. Aristotle. And then you come to the Jewish, the Christian tradition, the Buddhist tradition. What do they preach? Consistency. And what do we preach? Consistency. So, in fact, what you believe in is visible in the way you behave. So it's the way it's going to be translated in our daily life. So now you can end up sitting here and saying, this system is corrupt. And these societies are corrupt. The leaders are corrupt.